Hi everyone, Journal 85 today. It's about writing and writing advice and some of my advice, maybe a little bit, but mostly about how I've lost appreciation for writing advice in general. I mean, I think broadly, generally, I do think it is applicable. There's some utility in a broad sense, but narrowly, I don't think writing advice is of much value. Because as you write and you practice your craft and keep writing and you're going to develop a voice, right? You're going to get narrower and narrower. Think about like musicians. You're a guitar player, a piano player, a singer, whatever, a singer-songwriter. And the more you rehearse and write and practice and play and these years go by and the hours and hours and hours, you're gonna, at first, you're just a collection of influences, but you're gonna gradually whittle away those generalities, whittle away those influences until eventually you can't even hear the influences. It's not derivative of, whatever you were copying at the beginning. It's you, it's all you. And once a musician is just themselves, those are songs or albums or whatever, they really connect with people. Those are the good ones. But at that point, the target is too narrow, right? For like broad, general, musicianship advice to apply, songwriting advice to apply. And the same thing is true for like writing, for like typing and whatever, the story writing. You practice enough and the target becomes too narrow, and I just don't think it applies anymore. So that's what today's is about. But there is a book that I think still applies after that sort of like puberty, where you kind of emerge as yourself and your own unique voice. But I'll show you, it's my favorite writing book, but I'll show it to you at the end. Let's read the journal first. Journal 85, Saturday, September 7th, 2024, You Cut Writing Advice. Hi everyone. On a recent trip to the doctor's office, I drove past one of those electronic speed signs with the built-in radar. For a few seconds as I approached, it told me the speed limit of the road in huge light bulb letters. Then those bulbs turned off and others flashed on, displaying my current speed. When those bulbs turned off, one final message lit up on the screen. Slow down! It flashed that message on and off a few times, and then the cycle repeated. First, the speed limit, 35 miles an hour. Then my speed, 27 miles per hour. And then, slow down, slow down, slow down. A few minutes later, I pulled into the hospital, parked, checked in, and waited in the lobby for an hour, then saw my nephrologist for 3 minutes. She spent most of that time looking at my labs. After which, she said, we'll monitor your condition, schedule a follow-up in 6 months. Do I believe anyone will monitor anything during my 6-month absence? Of course not. But I scheduled my return visit, and then I drove home. I passed another speed sign on the way. The next day, an after-visit summary appeared in my online portal. It contained medical advice that we hadn't discussed in person. I quote, ketones in urine, eat less protein. At no point during any of our 3-minute appointments have we talked about nutrition. If we had, she would know I've been on a ketogenic diet for 6 years and I monitor my own ketones. Not in urine, as that doesn't track well with blood. I measure my blood and breath. My wife and I have even published our data in the journal Medicine and Science and Sports and Exercise. Why didn't I talk about this with my physician? In part, she never asked. But in larger part, there's no reason to bring it up. Physicians don't have any education in nutrition. The chaplain is just as qualified to have that discussion, as evidenced by the advice I was given. Ketones in urine, eat less protein. First, my intake is already relatively low, so if I took her counsel to heart, or at least to plate, I would have a deficiency. Second, if I were to increase my protein, my ketone levels would decrease. I don't expect the average physician to know the physiology here, that's not their job, but assuming I'm an average patient and issuing average advice will not benefit my health. Just as, slow down, won't improve my driving when my leisurely speed is already receiving honks. And general writing advice seems similarly unhelpful, even when it appears to apply to everyone. Consider, tell the story first, edit later. That way, if you have to cut parts of it, you're not cutting sentences you've already revised 50 times. This sounds wise for anyone who's either writing or Christmas tree shopping. When you go to a U-cut lot, you don't decorate the entire field of trees if you're only going to keep one. It would be a waste of time to decorate the trees you leave behind. That may be true, but if I'm looking at a bare tree, I can only make assumptions about its potential. I can't be sure I've chosen the right one unless I've decorated them all. I'm not passionate enough about evergreen conifers that I would go through the effort, but I do care that much about writing. And until I've finished decorating a sentence, I can't know for certain how effective it could be at character development or world building or foreshadowing. So even advice that seems infallible frequently fallibs. The only advice that feels almost universal is read most days, write most days, try to be attentive when you do both, find pleasure in revision, find pleasure in revising already revised work, don't get too frustrated by bad days, don't get too celebratory about good days, and don't go into medicine if you don't care about physiology or patience. All right, that's journal 85, that one. And the point is just like, don't put too much faith in writing. I'm like, read writing books, or listen to writing advice. But if it doesn't, like you have a resonant frequency of your own personality, if it doesn't ring true, discard it, right? Just trust yourself. But like distrust yourself too. From the perspective of don't think that your first draft is any good, because it probably isn't, but trust yourself to do the fixing. Okay, so at the beginning I said I would show you my favorite writing book, my how-to, prescriptive manual on writing. And I've read pretty much, if you've ever heard of a writing book, I've probably read that one. Anything that anyone's ever heard of, I've probably read. I've never found a grail, by which I mean a writing book that can just take anyone's writing and save it. I haven't found that. But the closest thing to a grail is Eric Partridge's masterpiece, this one. Now this is the Janet Whitcutt edition, the updated one. This is what I would say is like the version that everyone should use is that one. But I use this in class. I teach an epidemiology class. I've read this thing cover to cover twice. And I pull it off my shelf all the time and reference things. So if you add up all those toilet duration readings, there's probably a third read through. But in my epidemiology class, when I'm teaching students how to disseminate their scientific findings, how to write, how to communicate clearly and effectively, I use that book. There's a 3-lecture series. You know how people say oh, there's always a spider within 3 feet of you, move the furniture and there it is. It was there all along. Like that, this lecture series is a 3-lecture series about scientific and creative writing, and it's been up for 4 years. So it's there all along. It's within 3 feet of you forever. I'm sure you can find it if you're interested. But that book is a staple for that class. And I think it's a staple for writers throughout life, even when the target is narrow. It's not perfect. It doesn't apply to everyone, but it is an effective manual. But that's it. That's journal number 85. And I hope that the advice does apply to you, that you receive and encounter, so it's not just a waste of time, or it doesn't sort of take you off track, but that as you find your voice, that you can give writing advice to others who may be searching for your voice too, or connecting with it. So, all right, I'll see you next time.